City of Stevens Point Common Council meeting, recorded January 16, 2023.
At 7 o'clock, we will call the regular meeting of the City of Stevens Point's Common Council to order. Clerk Cantor, could we please get a roll?
Christensen.
Here.
Shore.
Here.
Keemer.
Here.
Zarazu is excused. Johnson.
Here.
Plassance.
Here.
Kneebone.
Here.
Shuda.
Here.
Dalton.
Here.
Fischler.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
And we have a quorum, so we will continue. We have a very special guest tonight. Thanks to Alderperson Shuda. I want to introduce to you Sister Lucentia Klinecki. She is a sister of the Order of St. Joseph, the Third Order of St. Francis. And in October of this year, she celebrated her 104th birthday. Born in Arcadia, Wisconsin in 2018, she entered the St. Joseph community after the 8th grade in 1933. She has been part of the Sisters of St. Joseph's Order for 90 years coming this spring. She was vested in the order in 1935. She began an illustrious career as a teacher, teaching grades 2nd through 8th, and after 25 years, she became the La Crosse Diocesan School Consultant. She was eventually assigned to Stevens Point, where she taught at St. Peter's Catholic School for many years. She then spent her final working years in Janesville, focusing on ministry to the homebound, and retired at the age of 90, and moved back to the convent here in Stevens Point. At the age of 92, she was looking for a new beautician and felt a connection to a name in the phone book and connected with Salon West. Lori Shuda has been her friend and partner in crime, enjoying church picnics, lunches, and dinner outings, shopping, and general bumming around. Lori's husband, Dean, alderperson from the 8th District, has become her ice cream buddy. But I noticed he didn't bring any tonight.
Afterwards.
Next month.
Next month. Sounds good.
As the sister is driven through town, the car must always be slowed to allow her to say the Pledge of Allegiance at each United States flag she sees. It can only be imagined how many times between her teaching career and now she has saluted our flag and our country. It's only fitting today that we are led in our pledge by a true patriot, Sister Lucentia Klinecki. Sister, would you please lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, sister.
I'm very happy to be here this evening.
We're happy to have you.
You know, I'm quite aged, and I've never been in a courthouse. So this is an interesting experience to me, and I want to tell you that so that you'll remember that somebody liked your place.
Thank you. Alderman Moore, I'm going to ask that you readjust the microphone, please, for us. And at this time, persons who wish to address the mayor and council on a specific agenda item other than a public hearing must register their request at this time. Those who wish to address the council during a public hearing are not required to identify themselves until the public hearing is declared open by me. There is no public hearing tonight. So if anybody hasn't signed up yet, please do so now if you wish to speak. Gina, as an applicant, unless you want to speak something specifically.
I just need the changes, so I need an acknowledgement of the changes. Would you like me to speak on that?
I'll make sure we get those changes.
Perfect, thank you.
If there's something else that I missed, jump right in.
Name and representation. Okay.
Sandy, do we have anybody else? Okay. Got him? Okay, we'll get to those in just a second. Opening remarks. That's always a tough one, but today not so tough. As we honor the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. today, we can't help but think of his determination to lift up others and bring them into the sunlight. One of the finest characteristics of great people, helping others succeed and be the best that they can be. Just over a week ago, we lost one of those great people. Sue Hall lived a life of service, but more importantly, she encouraged everyone she met to be the best them they could. And sometimes, if you knew Sue, she downright insisted on it. At the services this past weekend, I was able to talk to many of the people whose lives she touched, and as I listened to their stories, I realized that while she may not be at any more of our meetings, we'll get to see Sue almost every day. We'll see her as we take our pups to the dog park she helped create. Someone once asked Sue, as we met during the creation of that dog park, "What kind of dog do you have?" And Sue says, I don't have a dog. I just wanted to help." We'll see Sue when you visit Kosciuszko Park, where the Erickson Natural Area is. Sue was very active in the Aldo Leopold Audubon Society, too. Every bird you see, you'll see Sue. Whenever you attend the Levitt music events or Riverfront Rendezvous, you'll see Sue in the band shell she helped create. Sue was part of so many things in our community, we would be here all night if I had to mention them all. So when you see Sue, say hi. I think a lot of what we do in the city makes Sue proud. It's not about what I want or what you want. It's always about what we want. We have an obligation to help each other be our best. And I know that we're all better together, listening and learning from each other, accepting and even embracing our differences and lifting each other up to be something greater than we are alone. At Sue's memorial, a poem was mentioned that was dear to Sue. I read of a man who stood to speak at a funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For the dash represents all the time that they have spent alive on earth, and now only those who love them know what a little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that still can be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel. To be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering this special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of things they say about how you spent your dash? Whether or not you knew her, our community will be less without her. Thanks, Sue, for everything. We also had a few people retire the past month. I'd like to acknowledge Tracy Aldridge, who retired from our fire department as a firefighter paramedic, and Leanne Spoon, who was the administrative assistant putting in over 32 years with the city, most of it right here at the police department. And with that, my comments are exhausting. I'm exhausted. We have someone wishing to speak on a non-agenda item, Meg Erler.
So, my name is Meg Berler. I am a resident of Stevens Point, 3233 Leahy Avenue. I am also a member of our local Stevens Point School Board. I am here speaking both as a resident and an individual school board member. I am not here speaking on behalf of the school board. I want all of you to be aware of that. I received a call from a constituent with respect to the Finance Committee this past Monday about several options, one of which I'll be speaking to later on the agenda. one of them being a transportation utility. I'm aware our superintendent has reached out to the mayor and has reached out to Melissa Johnson to ask for more study on this agenda item. I'm grateful that this is not on for decision with respect to this item, but I want just to allow all of you to know that until this past Monday, if a constituent had not called me, I had heard something, I believe, back in November, and shame on me, I really didn't even consider the potential financial impact to our school district, which is currently at a $4.2 million structural deficit in our budget. As I look at the information that was presented to the Finance Committee, I don't see any substance about what a transportation utility is and what is allowed to be, the money allowed to be raised under it, and the work allowed to be done under it. I did reach out to the city. I'm being told that our schools preliminarily would be spending approximately $14,000. I look at, I think, what the city has been taking a look at, which is a League of Municipalities opinion indicating that a transportation utility fee is most defensible against challenge if the basis for the fee is closely related to property occupants' use of the local school street network. I'm just asking the city to be in conversation with our school district about the impact on us. In my opinion, the vast majority of cars coming into our schools are related to residents bringing students into our schools. And if we are charging them, if you in their homes, take that into account. In terms of our buses, we provide free transportation within this community, and again, it's for the purpose of transporting our local students. And I believe in the long run, it actually saves our community money, and it also provides a basic service to our residents. So again, thank you for allowing me to address you on this topic.
Thank you, Meg, and rest assured that if we have any further movement in the transportation utility over the next couple of months, we'll get all the parties involved.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That exhausts our non-agenda item speakers. So we will move on to a presentation. Community Development Director Ryan Karnowski, myself, and a host of other people, including Sarah Brish, and boy, if I had to guess, I'd say it's about a third of the community got involved, in regards to citywide signage updates, wayfinding signage, identification signage, and so forth. Tonight we have Mike from Avia, who is going to summarize where we've been, how we got here, and what we're hoping to move forward. Mike, if you'd approach the lectern, I just need a few seconds here to share this with, well, really, I guess it's just Corey right now, but that's okay. I'm going to share it with Corey. You can't see that. Corey, are you able to see the presentation? We're just going to do it that way. How's that? I like that. That's even better. Okay.
Yep, I am able to see it.
All right. Mike, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. As Mayor said, I'm Michael Haug. I'm with the VIA Design Group. We're a wayfinding, headquartered in Colorado. I live and work out of the Twin Cities, and we do wayfinding projects, everything from parking ramps to football stadiums to hospitals and communities. So the latest big wayfinding project we did for a community was the Sturgeon Bay area. And go ahead and click. So quickly, what we were asked to do was create a comprehensive, cohesive sign system for the city. to provide guidance for popular destinations. Another big benefit is making drivers aware of other destinations. So when you get a lot of people here for the golf tournament, we don't just want to point them to the golf course, Century World Golf Course. We want them to know about downtown and the college and Point Brewery, all of those things. And what it is, I'll just quickly, I've more or less said it, but we do a kind of a comprehensive study, pay attention to traffic coming and going, popular routes, where are these destinations in conjunction to those routes. The signs we have found encourage exploration. Lots of people are more apt to go looking for these destinations if they see them, and it provides reassurance on their pathway to a destination. So we go through, and one of the things we do when we first get here is not ask, don't look at any maps. We just get here and we start looking around, driving around, and trying to figure out the area, try to see it from a beginner's or a newcomer's point of view. And we identify obstacles, things that are confusing to us, identify opportunities, and then we take that information, we try to create a system that's logical and consistent and congruous throughout the community. So a lot of these probably are not foreign to anybody here, but some of our first impressions is this one-way loop around the downtown area. And we took that and we weren't sure where to go. We're looking around trying to figure out, well, how do we get to downtown? Another one is this tricky little turn onto the downtown Main Street area. I missed it the first time and had to loop around to try to do it again. Also the parking, a lot of the parking then is behind the buildings, which, is just an obstacle that you have to overcome and try to encourage people that it's okay to park here, it's public parking, and then I can walk to get to Main Street and to the other downtown areas.
I'm going through
is a
pages, nothing's
snowstorm.
coming up. 17, 18, 19. Ryan? Zoom out.
Oh, that could be.
Bum, bum, bum.
There were pages there, right?
There were, I believe there were pages there. Throw it in the drive. Let me stop sharing this. Sorry, technology is awesome. What are we at? Right there.
Oh, that's a big file.
Let's see, how far are we here? There we go.
There you go. Okay.
All right.
Also, the downtown is more than just Main Street. And those same two streets, Clark and Centerpoint, kind of block people off from those other areas, but we want to create something that connects downtown to Main Street. I'm here with my wife this weekend, and we were going to go to the art museum or the art center that's there. And she stopped me, said, "Where were we going?" I said, "Well, there's a art center just over here." She says, "Really?" I said, "Yep, trust me. It doesn't look like it. It looks like we're just going to the bank. But there's a riverfront and there's an art museum over there." The square also, our first impression was we weren't sure if it was a park or a parking lot. But it was a big open area in the middle of downtown. And then we really were impressed with the murals, how many of them there were, how good they were, and how everybody was behind the murals. Everybody talked about them. The gal at our desk at the hotel said, "Well, you should go check out the murals." I asked, "What should I do downtown?" So she had mentioned that. And one of the first things then we do after that is a schematic design where we try to figure out, without looking at color and fonts and anything like that, what is the information we need? What kinds of signs do we need? how big do they need to be, how big does the type need to be so you can read it at 25 miles an hour, et cetera, and then put together a schematic plan based on that information, rather than design something fancy and then have to backtrack. So part of that is looking at maps. This is actually a screenshot from an online map that we use as a working tool. We'll draw pathways, we'll identify decision points. We can zoom all the way in and we can locate where we think signs will go. And then people on the team can zoom in and make comments. And so here's, a couple of the things, this idea of getting people to turn left as you're circling downtown. How do we encourage them, let them know that the downtown area is just to your left? And then once you get there, the parking lots, and let people know that these are public lots. People are always worried, well, if I park in a lot, am I going to get towed? Is this a bank lot? Is this a hotel lot? Is this a public lot? And we also came up or suggested that you identify the lots. Because if I'm on Main Street and there's a sign that says parking lot this way, parking lot that way, parking lot that way, I don't remember where I parked. And so, but if I name it, then I can remember where I parked, and it also helps to orientate me which direction. I don't always know maybe where north is, but I know if this is the north lot, well, then the east lot must be this way, and the south lot must be that way. The traffic signs that you're allowed to have are under the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Are called community wayfinding signs, and there are rules that the government has set up. So if you have a sign in the right-of-way for traffic, there's a number of things that you have to follow to make it legal, for them to permit it. It has to have retroreflective sign faces, it has to have a breakaway base. You can only identify destinations that are of civic importance. It can be a private, like a museum, but it has to be sort of a community attribute. So these are the recommendations that we came up with. So figure out a way to work hard to get people to turn left, to connect the parking lots to Main Street, to celebrate the square. I know there's a lot of events at the square, and so we can't say, there's a farmer's market downtown at the end of the street on a sign. We have to have a place that we can say the square with an arrow. And so I think if you use that for all of your different events, it will become a place that'll show up on Google Maps eventually as it becomes a identified destination. And then this is the sign design. This is what we have proposed. We went through a number of iterations with the team about, well, what should the signs look like? So now we know what they need to say, where they need to go, what we need to do with them. And so how do we come up with a design that reflects Stevens Point? It's very simple. We're using a cedar wood post for the main component. We're using some accent panels with some color and some patterns. If you can go back one.
Hang on, I just got kicked out of Zoom.
I see that.
Still there? Okay, good.
Go, there you go.
Come on. Go back one, you said.
Go back one.
No.
There you go. So we came up with some accent panels to try to draw attention. So again, this left turn idea or crossing over to the riverfront, and using the sort of the starting point was the logo for the Convention Visitor Bureau, the sun, the trees, and the water. And we turned them into some patterns that we can use, connect them to those parking lots, create some color, create some energy, and help organize, the different areas around downtown. Doing something to highlight the square. So we're proposing these sign panels up on top of those pillars that exist. There are 4 of them. And then we had some park signage. If you go back one, that's sort of a group of park signage and a gateway sign for the city. And then that last one was a big monument sign that the industrial park has requested. Look like it's part of the system. So we can flick through these quickly. These are the basic sizes. Here's what they kind of look like in their environment along the street. This is the idea of how do we get their attention to turn left. So on the next slide, we've got a sign telling you left lane. This stuff is to the left. Downtown is to the left. Children's museum's to the left. And then we're going to highlight those turns with those big markers with the colored banner. And then some pedestrian scaled signage to identify public parking, highlight pathways to the downtown areas from those lots, and encourage people to explore the area. So we have these patterns. We had to come up with a fourth one because we had 4 parking lots, but we only had 3 icons. So the violet, what is it? The state flower, but it's something, the woodland violet as another pattern, a nature-like pattern to go with the others. And so applied to some of the parking lot signage, and then identifying those pathways to downtown like that. There's a couple of those tunnels you go through to get to downtown. I know the first time we came here, we walked all the way around to get to Main Street and then realized we had a shortcut.
Some of the businesses have back doors, too.
Yes. On either side of this crosswalk to the riverfront area, the Piffner Park area, getting people to go back and forth between those, let them know what is over there. There'll be a sign on this side as well, encouraging them to go across. Again, the square, and we have had an option for the square, which was that archway that went across it. A lot of people like that. We'll see if the pillars are strong enough to support it, and if your budget is strong enough to pay for it. And then the mural. We do a lot of signage for downtown areas. We put up maps and we put up signs pointing people to destinations, and they get used and people, appreciate them. But we think that using the murals as a way, as an excuse to get people to intentionally go around and almost force them to see all of downtown, that we can take advantage of the murals as a way to help people explore downtown. One thing right away is numbering them sequentially, so you don't have to start at 1, but you can follow the order, and you can go backwards, but you'll know if you've got them all. And then we would have we call it a totem or a pedestrian sign with a map on it. The map does a couple things. If you want to go to the next slide, zooms in. Not only identifies where these murals are, but shows where the parking lots are, shows where downtown is, and shows where the riverfront is. And so all of a sudden, if you're standing in the middle of downtown, you realize, well, there's a whole park right across the street that I didn't realize was there. And then as an enhancement, we call these trailblazers, so that as you're walking along, we would have these signs kind of pointing to some of these murals to just encourage you to keep going, to help you find them without creating too much of a mess with lots of signs all over the place. These could be on their own post. They could be put on existing posts or put on a wall. A couple of images then just showing them what approximate scale looks like downtown. And then another thing that we suggested doing was connecting this mural walk with a QR code to some sort of a web app, so people can use their phone as a way to keep track of what they've seen, read about the murals. We can link it to other events, special events, or community events. The map that you see on the right is actually the Freedom Trail in Boston. I was there a couple of years ago, And it's an enhanced Google map. So it's a regular Google map with a layer of information. And so the Google map functions like any Google map does. You can search. If you have your browser set to Spanish, everything comes up translated already. But another thing that this does, the icons don't disappear. You know, if you use Google Map and you zoom in and out, things appear and disappear. But on your special layer, all of those attributes would stay. And then this is a gateway sign at the various entrances into the city. So you have one that's down,
Being repaired.
being repaired. Yeah, I was wondering. So then as a way to create a consistent look, so we looked at things like the park signs. Can we make the park signs look like the rest of the signs as another extension of that system? And directional signs in the park, both for vehicles and for pedestrians. And I think then just on to next steps. So we are working on more detailed specification drawings and hardware material specifications so we can eventually put this out for bid for a signed contractor to fabricate and install, probably in phases. It's a lot to do all at once, but it could be something that is installed over a number of years.
Great. Well, thank you, Mike. We will have this document put on our website tomorrow. All of the pages will be there. So if you want to look at it, provide some feedback either through my office or through Director Karnowski's office, and we'll make sure that we get the feedback to the proper people. And over the next couple of months, the council will be making some decisions on, what we're going to do, how we're going to fund this. Most of it is anticipated to be through TIF. So over the next couple of months, we'll be having a few items in front of you. Mike, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty. And Ryan, we'll just make sure we get that on the website tomorrow. All right, item number 6 is on page 4 of your packet, and that is the consent agenda. I do need to point out that there are some errors on the appointments for the Business Improvement District Board. On the agenda, Gina Trebutuski's name is spelled wrong. There are 2 N's in it, and she is representing the Opera House LLC, which is incorrect on the agenda and, unfortunately, my memo, but it is correct on her application, which was included in your packet. So we're going to have to make the changes to the agenda tomorrow, just making sure her name is spelled correctly and that we get her representing Opera House LLC. Other than that, those are there for your consideration, the entire consent agenda. Yes?
Before we do that, I have a question about process. Item 10 was not as expected coming out of
10.
finance on the regular agenda, not the consent agenda.
Gotcha.
Again, this would be a process question to have that item postponed for action and removed from this agenda. I don't know if we do that now.
The finance?
No, item 10, the resolution approving a referendum for allowing the city of Stevens Point.
Oh, no, we're on the consent agenda.
I know, I'm asking about process of amending the agenda, which we don't have a process for, so it's kind of just a process question about.
So I would say when we get to item 10, if you wish to take no action, that would be your motion.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, I know
whatever.
a lot of groups that I belong to, there's an agenda item that says
Approve the agenda?
approve the agenda or amend it,
Gotcha.
and we should maybe do that because it's kind of, then it's kind of funky.
Have you talked to Corey prior to tonight to talk about the item number 10?
Nope. Well, yes, but,
Okay,
yes.
because I hadn't heard anything about
Yeah.
pulling it or anything, because we could have sent out an amended agenda if that was the wish.
Yeah, I didn't get to it. My
All
apologies
right,
for
fair
time
enough.
constraints.
Let's deal with that at item number 10.
Okay, thank you.
But before you is still the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dalton. Discussion? Comments? I don't think we had anybody. No. All those in, I'm sorry, roll call, please.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Plassance.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler. Aye. Morrow.
And that is approved. Item number 7 is on page 42 of your packet, and that's a resolution for an application for a DNR grant for the weed harvester. As many of you probably know, the weed harvest, one of the weed harvesters fell into disrepair, and we are applying for a grant to get the replacement there. This is just permission to do the grant.
Motion to approve.
We'll give the motion to Fischler, second to Dalton. Discussion. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to confirm that this is for the weed harvester for McDill, correct?
Predominantly. That's where they've been used. That
Right.
doesn't necessarily limit us to McDill, but yeah, that's where it's always been used.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Yes, Mr. Plassance.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. What's the cost of this?
The weed harvester?
Yes.
We don't know yet. And we don't even know if we can get it. Director, do you want to come up here? And it's been a bit of an ordeal. Do you have answers, Dan? That's all, Scott? Okay. Scott, come on in. So it's been a bit of a challenge. The original harvester, oh, Chris is here, perfect, even better. He's the one that's been doing all the heavy lifting here. But the original harvester capsized, shot. It's old. We're looking at repairing it. It's almost impossible to get parts, and if they do, it's going to be more than the cost of a new harvester. So Chris Johnson, who's our street superintendent, or one of our street superintendents, has been working trying to get not only the parts or replacement, but dealing with the insurance company and trying to get a temporary harvester or a new harvester has been challenging. Chris, tell us what you know.
Right, so the one question asked about the cost of a new harvester. The cost of a new harvester is $250,000, or just under. It was like $249 and some change. And then what this grant would allow is a 50-50 fund from the DNR, making our portion about $124,000. And we are working through with the insurance company. It's been a longer than expected settlement, and some back and forth, but I mean, we are confident of having a good settlement out of this that would be able to cover our portion of the grant.
Yeah, there's no intention of spending any additional city money. The insurance check should cover our 50%, should we even get the grant.
Okay. You're talking about a 30-year-old weed harvester that's depreciated, and you can feel that the insurance company is going to give us $125,000 for something like that?
We're still working through that, alderperson, and the comptroller, treasurer, and the street superintendent have been working on that, but yes, we feel.
And we have an actual replacement policy on it, so
Okay.
that's what helps us out
And if we
considerably.
get more than 124 or 25,000, where does that money go?
Honestly, alderperson, we're not speculating on that
Yeah.
at this point because we don't know what the check is going to be.
We're being fully transparent with both the DNR and we would be with the insurance company on that, so that way we're trying to avoid any gray area with that.
I just really don't want us to have to put the superintendent in a position where we have to speculate, because that's been asked of us quite a bit. And we just don't have solid answers yet. But I can assure you that we are confident the insurance check should cover our portion of the 50% if we get the grant. We have a second harvester that's going to be used this year to supplement that. It's just we won't have a backup at that point.
Yep, and we are, the company that we were working with is working on, sounds like they have secured a temporary harvester for utilization
Okay, good.
this summer, so that way we would still have 2 weed harvesters for the McDill operations.
Is this basically, this harvester the same size as the one that?
The replacement one that we quoted, yes, it's actually the exact same model. So even 30 years later, they have the same model, just a couple of newer, some newer
Okay, so
technology.
storage is not an issue.
What's that? No, storage would not be an issue. It would come with a new trailer. Just some of the positions, the propellers, the current trailer we have wouldn't work, which that's also over 30 years old, so a new trailer is probably due at this point anyway.
All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't mean to put you on the spot,
No,
but
no problem.
just out of curiosity, what kind of weeds are you pulling out of McDill?
Wait. No. The city attorney is channeling through me, and we are getting off topic. We are talking about a Department of Natural Resources grant
Harvester.
application.
I'll be real honest with you.
You will
I'm
harvest
not
all
with
the
the
weeds.
McDill Lake Association. I have read through, some of their plan because some of the questions were pertinent to the grant application. However, I'm representing, as it's a city-owned asset, that's the way I'm looking at it. And, the McDill operations have their own thing and their own plan. So this is just simply, from our standpoint of it being a city asset, doing, the best that we can to help the city out.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Can you check the volume on the rest of the microphones? Comptroller Treasurer is saying he can't hear the alders very well. But of course, he can hear the loudmouth loud and clear.
Is that what he said?
No, that's my words.
No, he said that we don't need Zoom and he can still hear him.
Right. This is my inside voice. I blame my mother. When I was in school, she told me to speak loud and clear. So I speak loud. I lost the clear over the years. Any better, Corey? Can Christensen, can you say something?
Corey, can you hear me?
Doesn't sound very good.
Yeah, it's still pretty spotty. I can barely hear it.
All right. Sorry about that, but technology is what it is.
Oh.
All right. Any other questions regarding the weed harvester grant application? Comments from the audience? Here, yes, go ahead.
Krista Olson.
You have to come up to the lectern, please.
Krista Olson, 3317 Della Street, Stevens Point, President of McDill Inland Lake Protection and Rehabilitation District. To answer Mary Kneebone's question, we are harvesting only native aquatic plant material. We are working on updating our lake management plan, and this is a key piece of equipment to our harvesting operations, is to keep the navigation lanes open for all boating, swimming, fishing activities that are on McDill Pond. And this piece of equipment, unfortunately, with its 30-year age, has shown its wear, along with the other one that's still in place that's showing its wear too. And we do appreciate the city working with us at this point to go ahead and get a new harvester into place for us. It is a 14-month process to build a new harvester, so it is a key thing that we do move forward with getting that resolution in and getting the grant application in. That is due on February 1st with the DNR, so that we can move forward for next year's harvesting operations and have something in place. So we do hope to continue to work with you with the city and appreciate the efforts and the staffing that have helped us out through the years with our harvesting.
Thank you. If you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler. Aye. Dalton.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Plassance.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that's approved. Item number 8 is on page 44 of your packet, and that is an irrevocable license agreement. Approval of the irrevocable license agreement for 1101 First Street regarding an existing encroachment into the First Street right-of-way. You probably are sensing deja vu. Yes. We talked about this before. Yes. We approved the agreement before. However, there were some requested changes. City attorney reviewed it. Community Development Director and myself reviewed it. We see no concerns with the changes, so we are seeking your approval for the slightly revised agreement. Most of it just covers the word irrevocable. Need a motion.
Alder Morrow, so moved.
Do we have a second?
I signed up.
Yes, you did. Second? Seconded by Keemer. Now you may speak. Yeah. Robert's rules state that we have to have a motion and a second to get it on the floor for even discussion.
Okay, I was missed last time, so that's why I wanted to.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I'm guessing that this is probably going to get approved because it's just a little bit different. But I wanted to bring up the background of why this has taken so long and kept going over. So hopefully this can be prevented in the future for people. Because I went to the city back in April to talk about this building to make sure that it would work for my home occupation, because I was getting a bunch of stuff going on there. And I was told then that yes, it would, everything was fine. And my uncle decided that he'd be a wonderful person and buy the building and then possibly rent it to me. So I wasn't involved in that decision, but we went and looked at the building again with Ryan in July, And he said that, okay, everything would be fine, we just need this license agreement drawn up. Well, then after that, we had an accepted offer on July 13th, and which specifically stated that it needed to have an irrevocable license agreement that went into perpetuity or for future owners of the property, just so that nothing would come up. Well, then later on, in August, we were told that the city can make the choice to work with people or not to work with them, and they weren't going to work with my uncle and the current owner of the property unless I dropped my zoning board case against the city. I refused to do that because I wasn't doing anything wrong. The ZBA, I won that, so I wasn't doing anything wrong either. But between July 13th, they wouldn't work with us in August, and then that delayed the first closing, and then ZBA occurred. Didn't get a decision on that till November. September 21st, the owner of the property pretty much wrote a plea to the city saying, hey, I have health issues, our realtor has health issues, we have major things going on, can you please just work with us? Because we need to get this figured out and done. So then a revocable trust, or a revocable license agreement with a clause in there that was 60 days notice, you would have to remove the building from city-owned property. So that means that a building built in 1994 might have to get moved off that property. If the city decided, giving you 60 days notice, you got to move it. So of course, the sale died then. But I kept working with the property owner, and so did my uncle, to try and get something else written up. So then what you approved last time was the license agreement, but it was still missing those key terms, irrevocable and like what you see highlighted in there. So I had hired a lawyer. My uncle had hired a lawyer because he used to be high up at Coca-Cola, dealing with contracts all the time. He was the one that rewrote this and then had his lawyer go over the terms because he's also a SCORE mentor in Seattle. So you had somebody coming into the city saying, hey, I'm an investor, I want to do something here. I'm not asking for any TIF money or anything like that either, but then the sale pretty much had died. But we've gotten it to the point again where I'm going to be in there because I signed an agreement with him, with the current owner now, but we just need this part of it to get anything done. But when we talk about this new builds being down in the area, this was just me dealing with the city. Like, if I'm dealing this much with the things going on, who else is? And why that could be one of the issues why our new builds are down.
Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, this is rather unconventional. This request for a irrevocable license didn't actually come from the property owner, and it didn't come from the city. It came from Andrea's uncle. Motion to approve. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Comments? Yes, sir.
Did the city attorney review this and approve it?
Yep, as I mentioned earlier, the city attorney reviewed it, the comptroller, or the community development director, myself. They're not really substantive changes. Okay, if you're in favor, vote yes. Opposed, no, and the clerk will call that roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Plasan.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that's approved. Item number 9 is on page 52, and that's to award the Fire Department Roofing Project 23-07 to Michael's Roofing in the amount not to exceed $84,243.25.
I will move to approve the contract award.
Thank you. Seconded by Christensen. Discussion.
It's about time.
Comments? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Plasan.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 10 is on page 53 of your packet, and that's a resolution approving a referendum for allowing the city of Stevens Point to exceed the state-imposed property tax limit under Wisconsin Statute 66.0602 sub 4. President Johnson, it's my understanding you wish to take no action on this?
That is correct. I'd like to postpone action on it. And that's my motion.
That is your motion.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to, generally with a postponement, I ask for a date. With this, the deadline is January 24th, so if you move to postpone until next month, it would be too late. That would serve the
Yeah,
purpose, I think.
Then I'll table
Or
it.
you could also postpone action indefinitely, I guess.
I'll postpone action indefinitely.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second by Plassance. Discussion. Go ahead.
May I? Thank you.
Absolutely. And then we have one speaker, too.
Yeah, and what I've been doing, and I probably should have late Friday afternoon asked for a change to the agenda, sorry. I've been making calls very much like you had mentioned about Madison sending us more money out of the shared revenue. And so I made a lot of calls to my contacts after I had several telephone calls from people about this item. I called people I know in Madison in position of authority, not only legislators, but their staff, who are the real power
The real
behind-
workers,
The
right.
real workers. And there is a consensus on both sides of the aisle, because I have contacts on both sides of the aisle, that we will be seeing more shared revenue. And therefore, it would be irresponsible to ask taxpayers for more money if we're going to be getting back, and again, it's not 100%, but boy, that's the first time I've heard both sides of the aisle be very, very happy about the same thing. I think the other thing is looking at our unassigned fund balance, and I did ask Corey for this, and every year, because we have such good department heads that do such good work budgeting, we have carryover that goes into our unassigned fund balance. Our unassigned fund balance, the 2020, 2022 hasn't been cleared out. We haven't done the audit on 2022, but the 2021 fund balance, unassigned fund balance, is $12,981,927. It's kind of a rainy day fund, and there's some sense in, let's say Madison, they get into a big arm wrestling fight and they don't like each other anymore over this topic, and they don't send us any money. We at least have that as our rainy day fund to cover what we anticipate 2024 will be as an iffy year. So I think we should probably take a deep breath and wait and see what Madison sends us as a backup. And again, I'm not making that policy recommendation now on the unassigned fund balance, but it is a location where we can grab money from. And I should say, I appreciate our comptroller treasurer's very, very fiscally minded approach to making sure we have money set aside, which he's done, but that's a healthy fund. And I think we can look to that if we find ourselves with up the creek without a paddle, so to speak.
Absolutely, and thank you. Yeah, I had mentioned that a couple of times over the last couple of months that we were working with Madison, and I'm glad you're getting the same feedback. That's very, very reassuring.
Yeah, on both sides, which is
right?
Unusual. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. But as President Johnson said, the reason before you, this is before you at all, is because we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't present the council with all of the options. And this one is the only one that's extremely time sensitive, considering January 24th is the deadline to get it on the agenda. We're asking people to take a big old crystal ball and try and figure out what things might look like in late 23 or 24. We're just not ready to do that. And I completely agree with President Johnson that closer to that time, we'll have a better understanding of what, if any, shortfall we'll have. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, and that general fund balance is our savings account, the rainy day. So if it does rain, we're covered. Meg Earler, you signed up to speak on item number 10?
Yeah, thank you. So,
And we're going to keep the comments just to the referendum question on spending.
So in calling about the transportation utility, then I had questions about the referendum. My question started out because the transportation utility was pegged at $500,000 and the referendum was pegged at $200,000. So that was my first question. My second question was, we had just had our auditor in for the school district, and we're told that a 20 to 26% fund balance is healthy, and the city's close to 50%. We use it for cash flow because, like the city, we don't get payment. We don't get payment from July till November into December. So we've got to cash flow our schools with our fund balance, and we drive it right down into the ground. I'm assuming that's the city as well, but for us, that's the purpose of fund balance. Also, the city has had money left at the end of each year, generally speaking, for the last number of years, which historically was put back into departments or general fund, which is what, as a school district, we do. But my understanding is that recently the city's been putting those dollars into a capital fund balance. And so, and then the final thing that Melissa referred to, which is this is the first time that the governor and the Republican-led legislature have signaled additional dollars in shared revenue. Our schools don't share in that. I mean, we are not part of that. And so for me, my question just really was, why now? It seems to me the city has the ability to fund that $200,000 either out of fund balance or in what you have at the end of the year, or in what I think you're going to get, which will likely be more than that, in shared revenue with the state. And so I encourage you to consider just putting it on hold till you have more answers. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure you realize by now that the city operates differently than the school district does. All right, the motion, yes, in some ways. The motion before you is to postpone indefinitely. It's been seconded. You had a comment, Alderperson Christensen.
Yep. Quick question, quick comment. I'm supportive of the idea. I think it's a good idea. I think we could use, there's too many uncertainties and we're not sure what's going to happen. And so at this point in time, even if everything went south, we could fund it for 1 year out of fund balance. That being said, I also want to remind people that fund balance is not a good source of funding for ongoing expenses, for recurring expenses. So if we look at it just perhaps a temporary bridge, if we would need it for 1 year, we would still need to come up with some source of revenue that would be recurring. But I think in this situation, it makes a lot of sense. That can be our final backup in case in case we don't get the extra shared revenues on a one-time basis. But if we wouldn't get it, then at that point, we still would probably have to look at some other alternative source of funding.
Right. Whatever that gap is, if it's a couple $100,000, we have options.
Yep.
As the school board president said, we could potentially have money left over at the end of the year. Sure. We could use that.
Yep.
We might get some shared revenue, but not enough. Or there are options. We'll know a lot more when it comes to budget 2023 time.
I agree. Yep.
Or 2024, in 2023.
Great. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Yes, Alder Kiemer.
Is there any sense on when the state may make a decision?
You're asking me to break out the crystal ball.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, they're going to be working on the biennial budget very soon.
Okay.
So I expect to know something by summer.
Yeah.
Before they end their session?
Right.
Okay.
Well, they have to have a budget by the 30th of June because that ends their fiscal year. They have missed that deadline in the past, but not very often.
But yeah, we should have a pretty solid idea.
By summer?
By summer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? The motion is to postpone indefinitely. Clerk, please call the roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Kiemer.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Plassance.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 11 and 12 are generally related on page 58 and 59 of your packet. These are a direct result of the binding referendum that took place a while back. We are now asked to break out our crystal ball once again. And because there's no fall election in 2023, we have the obligation now to put any spending referendums relating to that other binding transportation referendum on the ballot this April, and the deadline for that April ballot is January 24th. So, Director Badoun has worked diligently. Most of this stuff is already in our capital plan, so you can understand where, you can kind of see where things are going. But the next two resolutions are referendums for reconstruction. The first one is for Bliss, Mason, Prairie, Cock, and Francis Streets. The next one is for Maria Drive, Walker, and Vincent. There's got to be some flexibility in there because we don't know completely what we're going to do, but we are very confident that they will both exceed $1 million. We are now obligated, at least through August of 23, to put these on a public referendum, which will be on the April ballot So we're asking for your support and the public's support on each of these referendum questions in the April election. Item number 11 is first, and that is on page 58 of your packet. That is the binding referendum for reconstruction of portions of Bliss, Mason, Prairie, Cook, and Francis Streets.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Dalton.
Second.
Seconded by Morrow. Discussion.
One quick question.
Yes, sir.
What year is this budget going into? Which year?
24.
Okay, thank you. For both of them?
Uh-huh. Yep, 2023 capital projects have already been approved, and those revolutions, those referendum questions were approved in the November ballot. Because we are obligated now to put any transportation project greater than $1 million on a public referendum, and because there is no general election in November of 2023, we have to hit it April of 2023 for spending in April of 2020, I'm sorry, in spending in 2024. That, however, also may change because the council has yet to approve the capital budget for 2024. But we're doing this preemptively to make sure that we have the public's input and that they allow us to fix roads. If they don't allow us to fix roads, well, we save a lot of money.
He uses the budget.
And we can use that to cover the budget shortfall should there be any. Sorry, I'm
Thank you for your
being a little cynical now. President Johnson.
Yeah, and I realize the timing is a little weird and out of sequence. It probably should have gone, even though it's in the long-term capital budget, there should have been, it should have gone to Public Works and then Finance. And I realize the sequencing is weird just because this is new. But I think as we look to the next cycle, is planning a little, it basically says right away we have to get going planning on the upcoming year to go through those committees, because that's the process. We should have vetted it that way.
Yeah, and the only concern, the only problem, or the only real difference here is that we don't have a November 2023 election.
Right, but just...
We will in 2024, so that will actually give us a regular cycle to go through. But I understand and appreciate that.
And it's our first time going through this process.
Right,
So
adding it to, because I had,
yeah.
someone did ask, well, this didn't go through Finance, and I'm like, no, unless I, was like asleep.
Yeah.
Which could happen.
We're not asking for finance money, so that's why.
No, but usually it would have.
It didn't go through finance because we're not asking to expend anything.
Right.
We're asking to be put on the ballot to see if the public
But it's a spending.
says yes.
Yeah, it's a spending referendum. It's just trying to get used to it.
It is tricky.
Yeah, trying to get used to that new sequencing, so I get it.
With any luck in April or August of 2023,
Yeah,
this will have to be the only time we do it.
that is correct.
Alder Keemer, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a possibility that both of these areas would be fully reconstructed in 2024, or does this give us the option to choose one?
No, it's likely both.
Both, okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if we can, if everything stays the same and the plan follows through, both of these will be done.
Okay.
If things go way out of whack and prices go crazy or whatever, we may not be able to do all of that. We might have to take one section of road out, but we won't know that until 2024.
Very good, thanks.
Anything else?
Could I just ask a question?
Actually, we have, the agenda has been set, but if you have something quickly, I'll allow it. So, Bill, if you want to...
No, the only question would be, is it, when it comes to ballot in April, will there be a some certain for residents to know?
No,
what
it's more than
the
$1 million,
cost?
because that's what the binding referendum chose.
So there won't be anything on the referendum that will tell residents what dollar amount they're approving?
It will be greater than $1 million.
Okay.
That's it. We don't have a some certain, we will not have a some certain until early spring, maybe late winter of 2024.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Bushman.
I think you all know me by now. Bill Bushman, Elmwood Avenue, not Elm Street. So thank you for that misprint, whoever typed that. I didn't get any broken windows or eggs on my house. But just two questions, Mike. I believe this totals about $3.9 million. Do we have any feel for cost from a levy standpoint to a taxpayer?
No additional costs. The capital budget will determine that.
Okay. My other thought then, we seem to be seeing these come up more and more. do you have a 5-year plan or some type of long-term plan as to which roads are going to be fixed and when?
And that's what we talked about when we referred to the capital. This is all on stevenspoint.com, so anyone can go take a look at it. We plan our budgets out about 5 years, but they're not set in stone until that year. We only approve 1 year at a time.
But the specific road repairs are part of it. Okay, that's all I wanted.
stevenspoint.com, if you have trouble finding it, just give me a call and I'll direct you there. Okay, if you're in favor, vote yes, and opposed, no. Clerk will call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Plassance.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
All right, that's approved. Item number 12, same thing. This one is for a binding referendum for the reconstruction of Maria, Walker, and Vincent Streets.
So moved.
Moved by Christensen.
Second.
We'll give the second to Shuda. I saw his fingers before you said something, so. And it was more than one, so I appreciate that. It's a change of pace for me. Discussion there. All of the same comments that we had before apply.
Right.
Just the names of the roads have been changed to protect the innocent. Okay, clerk, please call that roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Plassance.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Shuda.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler. Aye. Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved. Our agenda is exhausted, and we are adjourned at 8:06.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.